everyone, so I'm going to be showing you how to make one of Natural Choice Pet Food treats. What we do is we're going to be using one of these tins of Country Hunter by Nature's Menu. You can get them in loads of different flavours, but I'm going to be using the duck one because it's my dog's favourite there. And you can order them from the shop as well, so if you're stuck with supplies, you can just give them a shout. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to put this whole tin into a bowl. You can do this in smaller batches, so you can use half the tin at a time. I find it's easier to just bake the whole thing all in one because you can freeze it as well, so you might as well bake it all. But if you don't have the option to do that, then you might as well do a little bit. So you can get the whole tin out. Go. Now there's 80% meat in these tins and the rest is fruit and veg, so there's nothing bad in that at all for your dog. So we're going to crush it up, we're going to make it into almost like a pate. You can use a blender. I tend to try and keep lower on the washing up. Got a kitchen assistant who's going to help me with the tin. I tend to just use a spoon, sometimes a fork, just to crush it up. My dogs quite like it when there's various chunky bits in there. You'll notice that there's various bits of offal in the tin as well, and they tend to stay in a more whole shape. But if you want to put it through the blender, you can. It will be slightly faster, but you will have a little bit more washing up to do. And that's usually why I just do it all in one bowl. I don't know if you can see that, it's a much finer paste. And we're now going to be adding two to three eggs. I know some people put the shell in as well. I tend to give the shell to my dogs with their dinner. But as a bonus, if shell does go in, you don't need to worry about it. So. You're going to have something that looks roughly like this. A little bit pate-esque. Not that I'd recommend spreading it on toast, but that's kind of the texture you're going for. Depending on the size of your egg, so I've got large eggs there, so I've gone for 2. If you've got medium or small eggs, I'd probably go for 3, because this is what you're going to be using for your rise, because we're actually going to be using plain flour. If you have got dogs that can't have any wheat at all, you can use things like coconut flour or some of the various other alternatives. That means you don't have to use any wheat at all, because there isn't any grain or wheat in the tin. We're then going to be adding 200 grams of flour. But different tins have different moisture levels. So always start with 150 first. Stir that in, and if I need to add the extra 50, that I do. I tend to find that the chicken tins are slightly heavier, if you will, so they won't need as much flour, so I only need the 150. Sometimes the gamier tins have a little bit more moisture in there. And especially if you've got one that's got a lot of offal in, then you're going to probably be needing the full 200. At the moment, I'm still looking quite soggy, if you will. I'm going to pop it back on my scales. I'm going to add the extra 50 grams of flour. There we go. The bonus is if you think you've added too much flour, just add a bit of water, a bit of coconut oil, anything like that. We'll bring it back down again. Obviously adding coconut oil will increase the fat content for when you're cooking, so it's likely to bubble slightly more, but it's also really good for the dogs, so it shouldn't give you too much trouble. Perfect. So what we've got now is we've got a nice thick mixture, and it drops off in chunks. So I'm just going to set that aside. I've got a tin that's about this sort of size, mainly because I've got so much mix. If you've halved it, obviously use a smaller tin. You can use round cake tins, anything like that. I'm going to line it. I tend to use foil. I use foil because it helps it cook from the bottom better, so you get a nice crust on the bottom as well, rather than it being too soft. Basically like I'm plastering. I've never been a plasterer before, but it's what I can imagine plastering to be like. Obviously the thinner you go, the faster it will cook. So you don't want to go too thin because you don't want your treats to be biscuity. You want them to have a really decent bit of chew. Almost so you imagine you're making a brownie, I suppose. There's a bit of squidge to it. That enables you to break it easily without it crumbling. So that's kind of what we're looking for. And so you're probably looking at maybe a centimetre to a centimetre and a half in depth. And that'll give you the best possible outcome. You want something that looks like this, okay? Just nicely set in, not too far. I'll pop the fork in, you can see them coming up to about here, so about a centimetre into the tin. I'm going to pop this into a 180 oven. Mine's a fan oven, so obviously adjust accordingly if you haven't got a fan or you've got something that's slightly different, different gas mark, etc. And you're looking at roughly between 45 minutes to an hour, but again, every single cake is different, so check it after half an hour and see how it does. I'll come back to you with the finished product. So here's what we've ended up with. Here's our finished product. I'll come and show you. So now that it's cooled, I've got some wider bits at the edges where I pushed it right up to the edge, but we've got a nice, soft, squishy, breaks apart easily, very much wanted pieces of treat that you can use for your training. So use it for your trick training, use it for puppy classes, for your puppy training at home. Log on to any of the Sussex County Dog Training online exercises and see if you can do something fun with your dog. We hope you enjoyed the video. Jump back on and have a look for others in the future.